Welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. The show will begin momentarily.
Hello, welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky, the Dragonchain Updates show. This is episode City D. That is 0xcd. It is Hex, and that is the 206th episode. I think if you take 52 weeks, I mean, we're only a couple of episodes away from a 4-year run on this weekly run. So notable, pretty cool stuff. So make sure you stay tuned after the updates for our weekly AMA. And reminder, nothing on the show is financial advice. So in Dragonchain Updates, first we have the show's weekly distribution, which is how we do the governance on this show. So feel free, if you have participated, to make proposals to change the show and change it up to some way that is at least doable. And we'll try it out. Last week's episode, the distribution was 402 total lot. There was one question for 100 lot, one featured post for 100 lot. The host received 100 lot, and Dragonchain received 102 lot. The rounded up bits. We moved to Den.social Updates. The July 2023 layer creation process. That's the community creation process. The LCP commitment phase is underway, wherein the number one layer proposal, as ranked by unique voter, and the number one layer proposal as ranked by the amount of lore committed, will both be created this month inside of the July LCP. All commitments need to be made by next Tuesday, July 18 at 10 a.m. Eastern or 1400 UTC. Make sure you get in there and participate. There's, I think there's some pretty good communities in the list that should get created. And if you have ideas on changing the process, by all means, it might be a good time to change it. So next, Coffee with Den. Join Dave next week. It's every Wednesday on Coffee with Den. If you missed this week's show, go back and watch it. It was on the analog revolution. I actually wanted to join, and I ended up stuff started coming up in the morning, couldn't join. So you should get in there and watch that, though. Also, DENDAO updates. Join us later this afternoon for the weekly DENDAO call. It is at 1500 Eastern, 1900 UTC. The agenda is posted. Go in and let us know if there's anything that you want to add to the agenda to discuss, or just pop in before we are done. And everyone's welcome to join. You don't have to have your camera on. It's just a meeting. Next, we go to the World Blockchain Roundtable update. Watch and share last week's episode on blockchain and whistleblowers. The more views it gets its first week, the more lot all of the participants will get. Episode 112 will be on Thursday, July 13 at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC. And that's today. And the topic is Hinman emails. Make sure you leave a blockchain-related question or subject to discuss if you have not already. You still have time. So that's it. So we'll go straight into the AMA, which we will refresh so that we get the latest ranking on the questions. And we'll go down. And the first question is from I am for I am. And it's a long one. So I'll go ahead and read through it, right? Because it's worth exploring some of what he calls out. So George Orwell's 1984 Australia. Proposed legislation would empower the Australian Communications and Media Authority to create and enforce its own industry standard on misinformation and disinformation. Online platforms spreading misinformation could face millions of dollars in penalties under new proposed government legislation that bolsters the power of Australia's media watchdog. The ACMA would be armed with the ability to require digital platforms to keep certain records about matters regarding misinformation and disinformation and turn them over when requested. Communications Minister Michelle Rowland said this would, quote, essentially mean that the regulator is able to look under the hood of what the platforms are doing and what measures they're taking to ensure compliance. Wouldn't it be nice if the compliance was focused on free speech instead of censoring? That what they're wanting to do is see how are you helping us censor, instead of how have you kept people from saying what they want to say as free people. Anyway, key takeaway, the ACMA would be able to require digital platforms to turn in records of matters related to misinformation and disinformation, the who, what, when, and where. Industry would be requested to develop a code of practice with violations of the code resulting in penalties of up to $2.75 million or 2% of the global turnover. So the industry is going to come up with this apparently. So Facebook and Google and Twitter are going to not only agree on these things, but also they're not going to try to keep startups out of the picture, right? They're not going to put together something that wouldn't kill a startup if they wanted to compete in some meaningful way. Anyway, according to the draft bill, misinformation is defined as unintentionally false. Oh, sorry, as intentionally false or unintentionally false. Anyway, defined as false, misleading, or deceptive content per their own judgment or the Australian government's judgment, I guess. So question, is such legislation in Australia or other countries, if implemented, a problem for DEN and the DENDAO? So first on that, I would say probably I mean, of course it's a problem because it's it would require us to think about things and use resources that we would otherwise use to build better value in a free market. But as it is, maybe it's an opportunity to demonstrate what we can do better, maybe. So what about members of the DENDAO? Is that a problem? I guess, I mean, it kind of depends upon what this legislation is calling out. Is it something that the Australian government can come and tell us that a post by I am for I am is somehow misinformation as judged by them, and therefore we need to take it down? Maybe there are methods whereby, it's on chain. So maybe there are methods whereby we can say, look, we can, as annoying as it is, and I'm not a lawyer, thankfully. You can all thank God that I'm not a lawyer. But that if as a technician, as an engineer, I can tell you it's possible. We could comply with that, and we could at the same time honor our philosophy of free speech, wherein we could say, hey, I am for I am. We've been ordered to take this down, but it is here on chain. Anybody can download it and prove that it was real. Would it go to say that, oh, no, that has to be taken down? What about then the proof as it exists on Ethereum or Bitcoin? Would the Australian government sue? Of course, they would never sue the Ethereum Foundation or any of the founders of Ethereum. So that might be our good protection. There, you could say on the other side of it, me not being a lawyer, we don't have a business in Australia. We don't have any bank accounts in Australia. I don't know that there's any way that this could affect us. Of course, I know it depends, right? So if they are friends with certain people in the U.S. in the deep state, they can do anything they want. But it kind of depends. I think the opposite is much worse, and I wouldn't say that's any better. Of course, it's much worse. Where if it was flipped and this was Hollywood wanting to censor you for doing something in, let's say, New Zealand, they're going to come after you, right? So that's really bad. This, I don't know what kind of power they have to do stuff to us. If this all fits in your long-standing question of, what should we do with domicile? Where should Den officially the entity live? And in the ideal world, there wouldn't be an official entity. It would just be all of us people, and all of us people would have to follow the laws where we live, and hopefully everything would be great. So anyway, there's a bunch of stuff that to enroll that could be important to think about, and we'll have to see what comes up with it, right? Okay, distance. Worth noting that members of DENDAO means literally every denizen, since everyone has a behavior-based vote in the DAO. That's a crazy, interesting question, isn't it? Very true. And everyone who has had behavior on chain on Den, right? So very interesting point to make. Awesome. So anyway, that's a great question. I put a whole bunch of energy on it, and I'll probably put more yet. I still have. I only did that 11 minutes ago, so I want to put a bunch more on it. Anyway, next we will go to featured content by Dayrox. So this was this very interesting post. Dayrox has very recently been reviewing and researching the Den white paper. And I thank you for that, because and if you have anything that needs, like say, to point out that needs to be updated, it would be very welcome, and let me know. We could even get you edit into it so that we can, actually start tracking some of those, because I know of at least a few things, not necessarily need to be changed, but that definitely need to be added. Some conceptual things that we have learned since we put it in place, since I wrote the white paper, but also some things that are very important to the system, including some of the details about DENDAO, and maybe there might be a few updates that we should make. So anyway, this article is very much about what matter is, and some of the more interesting points. This is a financial post, which I thank you again. It's about utilities, about what this thing is. So the more matter a user has, the more energy he or she receives, which can be used to create posts and vote. Token's very unique. It essentially keeps someone from using too much matter until they learn the system and or are trusted by the system effectively. And it's all with objective measures based entirely on their comprehensive behavior from a bunch of different points. So the beauty is that, and part of what's brought in here is that with the current number of users in our entire lifetimes, in the next 85 years, there's only going to be an average of 7,800 matter for each user, which is kind of intended like that. And if the number of users grows to 40,000, that's only 800 matter per user in 85 years. And if you had 1 million users, that's only 32. And that's just for 85 years. So that's why it was kind of built out like that. And it was intended that, we didn't want to require people to sacrifice matter directly for, making a post or voting, because then you would basically push down the volume of activity, so you couldn't measure those behaviors because everything is potentially too expensive or volatile. Whereas if we don't have to consider about the outside pricing or anything else of matter, all we care about is how much energy you have, which comes back. So it becomes still scarce, but not in an existential way. It doesn't go away forever if you use it. So that's a big piece of, one of the things we solved. It also, by the way, allowed us to make it possible to give people some energy with no matter on a standard, so that, admittedly small amount of energy, so that you could do a few things to slowly pick up the system, right? And there are drawbacks to that. That it's harder to get a crazy number of users, and we don't have a bot centric adoption policy like almost every other, if not every other, competitor network. So anyway, interesting stuff. Really good. I appreciate you getting in there. Feel free, if you have any like detailed questions or insights, especially, things that you find, hey, did you ever think about XYZ? Because I'd be totally interested either covering it here or wherever it fits, or even, directly in Den. If you have any insights or thoughts of things, because there's probably 10 or 20 times more information that was gone through in me with conversations with others and with the engineers in the process of building that white paper and then building Den, that isn't documented anywhere in any of that. So there'd be a lot of, if you have questions about it, I can tell you why we didn't do X and we did do Y, that type of stuff. So anyway, thank you for the post. You get the credit for that. It is awesome. And that's everything. Thank you very much. So in closing, make sure you watch the show again next Thursday at 1100 Eastern, It is 1000. I totally, so this my show notes weren't updated on this, and we just changed the show's time. So, and I'm not in the Eastern time zone, so I don't even know what time it is. So it is 1000 Eastern. Thank you very much. And 1400 UTC. And that's next Thursday again. We moved to Thursdays for schedule changes. We have a couple of other, some of the other shows might also move around. So do watch. But this today, make sure you watch World Blockchain Roundtable at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC, and get some Dragonchain and Den merch at Dragonchain.store. Also, if you can afford it, contribute to Dragonchain's legal fund. It's going to be super important with everything going on. If you've watched the recent library stuff, and of course the long-awaited, much hopeful, everybody pray for it if you do that, Ripple decision, and what we're up against. We have an amazing case, but we need funding for the legal. So legalfund.dragonchain.com. You can contribute in any crypto you want. If it's not on the list, let us know. Make sure you follow us, Dragonchain, Real Denizens, and Jojo Row on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Den.social especially. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, please. Thanks.
Now, more than ever, our data is at risk. Our supply chains are in jeopardy. Our systems are broken, and businesses feel powerless. Dragonchain gives you a different way, a safer way, a better way, and you have power over your data. Dragonchain gives you proof in an untrusted world. Build now at Dragonchain.com, America's blockchain.